Title: The Empty Chair. In a small town nestled between green hills and quiet lakes lived a boy named Armin. He was bright, cheerful, and loved by many, but he had one flaw. He often took people for granted. Armin lived with his grandmother, a gentle woman named Nanny Amma. She raised him since he was 5 when his parents passed away in a road accident. She told him bedtime stories, packed his lunch, waited for him at the gate, and stayed awake when he was sick. But as Armin grew into a teenager, he became busier with school, friends, and his phone. He no longer sat with her for dinner or listened to her stories. "Armin, will you have tea with me today?" she'd ask softly. "I'm busy, Nanny. Maybe later," he'd reply, barely looking up from his phone. She never forced him. She simply smiled and waited for the later that never came. One evening, Nanny Amma arranged 2 cups of tea on the table. She sat down at her usual spot, the other chair across from her empty. She waited and waited, but Armin never came. He was at his friend's house playing video games. That night, she didn't ask. A few weeks later, she fell ill. Armin thought it was just the flu. He was sure she'd get better. But her health declined quickly. She was taken to the hospital, where she stayed for days. Armin visited, but still spent most of his time on his phone, believing she'd recover like always. One morning, the nurse entered the room to find her gone peacefully, in her sleep. At the funeral, people spoke of her kindness, her strength, and her love for Armin. But all he could think about was the last cup of tea she made and the empty chair. Back home, the house felt colder, quieter. Her slippers at the door, her prayer beads on the sofa, the teacups in the kitchen, everything reminded him of what he had lost. He sat at the same table where she once waited with tea. He poured himself a cup. Then he placed a second cup across from him. But the chair remained empty. Tears streamed down his face. Days turned into weeks. Armin began to change. He stopped ignoring people. He called his friends just to ask how they were. He spent more time with neighbors, helped elderly shopkeepers carry bags, and began volunteering at a local shelter. One day, he noticed a shy boy at school who always ate alone. Armin walked over and asked, "Mind if I sit here?" The boy looked surprised, but smiled. "Sure." That lunch started a new friendship. Armin later learned the boy's parents worked far away, and he lived with his aunt. Loneliness was all too familiar. Armin remembered something Nanny Amma once told him. "Never ignore the people who love you quietly. Their absence will speak louder than their presence ever could." Years later, Armin opened a small tea cafe. It had books, plants, soft music, and one special corner. A wooden table with 2 chairs. On one chair was a little sign that read, "Reserved for the ones we should listen to." People from all over came, sat in that chair, and reflected. One evening, a girl sat across from the empty chair and cried quietly. Armin served her tea and said, "Some absences are reminders. Be sure to treasure those still present." She nodded. Moral: don't wait to appreciate the people who love you. Their silent sacrifices often go unnoticed. Until they're gone. Always make time for those who matter.